Another very famous movie from this year that is not so charming or funny is M, directed by Fritz Lang.
I bet, like,
That is a weird transition, but
you told
let's
me that you
go
had the
for it.
order of everything figured out already, and I failed to see the link between these two,
There's
except
not
that I
really
have criterions of both of them.
Well, the link is that the other four movies that we're talking about are sort of
Our
fit
pairs.
into nice pairs, and this is the other sort of like lonely orphan of a movie. And it's also
Yeah.
like similarly to City Lights is like crazy famous
Mm-hmm.
and influential, and is one of the best movies by this director.
Yeah. This movie is real good.
Yes, it is. For like entirely different reasons than City Lights. City Lights is like so sweet and like and funny and charming. This movie is, if anything, the opposite. This movie is haunting and chilling in a really kind of, in a way that I'm not used to seeing from movies this old. For them to like be able to get that level of like, old movies just don't tend to get as dark as this one does, I think.
Right. We've seen some darkness in a couple of these movies, but this one's like oh god.
But it's like, it's funny that even though it's pre-code, right? Movies are still don't really show
it's
a lot
a German movie, so it doesn't matter.
Right. But it's like old movies don't tend to show a lot of violence or nudity or sort of, shocking things to you. But really good directors like Fritz Lang can still create really effective scenes out of horrible things happening without actually showing them. And actually by not showing them, it makes them even more horrifying. And this is a perfect example of that. Because this is a movie about a child murderer that contains no scenes of murder, but
by the way, he murders children. He's not he's not like a child detective or something.
Right. There's a scene early on in this movie where we, the audience, can know that a child has been murdered by a serial killer, and we're just watching the mother like run through the house and like in the apartment building.
It's good.
Calling her name, and as she's calling her name, it cuts around to just like an empty place at the table, an empty room. All this just emptiness, like just shots of empty rooms. Yeah. And it is so chilling and haunting of just like the lack of anyone in the frame.
Yeah, it's so well done. This movie has a lot of boldness as far as allowing it to just hang on things and be silent and look at nothing, but looking at nothing in a way that makes you uneasy or anticipating something horrible.
Yeah.
That scene reminded me of the part in Jaws when the first kid is killed. Yeah. And you're just kind of anticipating like, who is the mother who is going to be like devastated right now, right?
Yeah. Kind of like in Jaws shows a bit more, but like a lot of the early shark attacks in Jaws, right, focus on sort of like the aftermath or sort of these little elements around it. Like, we don't actually see any of the children being murdered in this movie, but there's been established that like children have been disappearing. There's like posters up, and the first time someone's actually killed in the movie, it is off screen, but it is like the kid is bouncing a ball as she's like led away by the killer, and then we see the ball just kind of like rolling by itself, like through the dirt, and then the balloon that she was carrying getting like caught in power lines.
Yeah,
which is kind of like in Jaws, right? Like the kid is on the floaty thing, and we see the tattered floaty thing just washing up on shore, and it's like, that's all you need to see. It's like that puts enough of an image in your head where you're just like, oh god.
It's good. It's tasteful, and it's like really eerie. It's
eerie is a good word, yeah.
And we only see, I mean, this movie starts off with so much like suggestion and just kind of anticipation, and like the shark in Jaws, like it's a while before you see the murderer himself. Like you get to see a clear look at his face, and you get all of this kind of like implication before you actually see him, of him whistling.
Yeah.
And the whistling is like another kind of like haunting thing. It's like, what can I do to freak people out in a sound movie? You know, have a murderer who whistles all the time, and just have it hanging off the screen.
Yeah, is like such a brilliant use of sound. Which is like, finally we're getting to the point where people are like really knowing how to use sound in movies, and this is a great example of that, because the whistle is like such an important, I mean, it's incredibly important to the plot for one thing, but then it also just is so important to the mood and the atmosphere of this movie.
Oh, there's the link. These two movies have whistles in them.
Sure, there you go. So yeah, the opening scene of this, the opening shot of this movie after its great title card, is the creepiest German children's rhyme of them like doing a sort of, I don't know, one of those things where you count down and then
it's like an eeny meeny miny mo kind of situation.
Yeah, but even creepier and more German. And that's the opening shot of this movie. It's like children singing about being murdered.
Yeah.
In like a fun way. And
the parents are like, would you stop that,
it's like,
please?
There is a serial killer who's killing children. Please stop singing about death.
Clearly, this is like the translation's a little fanciful because they made it rhyme, but it is, just you wait, it won't be long. The man in black will soon be here. With his cleaver's blade so true, he'll make mincemeat out of you.
Which is a hell of a way to open any movie. And knowing like a bit about what this movie was about, just that opening shot, I was just like, oh boy, here we go. This movie is going to be intense. And then, we follow one little girl as she like is crossing the street. She like almost gets hit by a car too. And that's like a thing of tension. It's like, oh, don't die. And then sees the poster of like the missing children. And we see the silhouette of a man, his shadow falling across the poster. Great shot. The killer, by the way, played by Peter Lorre, one of my favorite actors. This is like his breakout role. Yeah, he's very good in this. I mean, you can see why he continued to work, until like the 1960s.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, he kind of is just doing this sort of like ominous, creepy thing.
Right.
And then
the kind of the back half of the movie, he is panicked and is like he's like an animal. He's like
yeah.
His big bulbous eyes and just sort of like his mannerisms are so kind of perfect for this movie of like
really good. Yeah.
His like soft,
he's very well cast.
When he's like soft spoken and creepy, that's one thing. But then also when he's just like panicked and like spitting and yelling and his eyes are popping out of his face, it's like, it's really, really intense.
Yeah, in particular, like I think nowadays we would consider it, I would look at a scene like that and I'd go like, oh, okay, it's your Oscar scene, But like, I think this predates Oscar bait speeches as a thing. And like this part of him talking about like his like killer compulsions is harrowing, and he does such an amazing job with it. It's like,
because it makes you feel kind of bad for him after he's been established as like he's killed a bunch of kids.
Yeah but he talks about like the voices that make him do it and all, and like how like the only time when he doesn't feel like he's a shadow that's tailing himself is the only time the voices stop is when he's killing someone. It's like, oh god, god, it's so good.
Yeah. Oof. I think that I didn't really know about this movie that is like kind of, other than it just being about a serial killer, is kind of the main hook of it. And I think that I love about it is that it becomes kind of a procedural, like a crime solving movie through like all of Act 2. But the hook of it is that it's like the cops can't find this guy, right? They've been looking for weeks to find this serial killer and they can't figure out who it is. And then because of the increased, the police are everywhere and they're like stopping people on the street and they're like busting into like gambling dens and cabarets and like we're just arresting people just to get them off the street in case they might be the killer. All of the local criminals get together and they're like, this is bad for business.
Yeah, there's too many cops around. We've got to catch this guy because we can do it better than them.
Yeah. And the fact that then the movie is like split between like the kind of ineffectual cops who have like way too many leads to follow and are like not necessarily corrupt, but I feel like the way that they're portrayed is like kind of, what's the word? Like bureaucratic, just like it's kind of a mess. And then the criminals who are just sort of like cutting through everything to be like, no, we gotta like, one, it's like it's hurting their criminal enterprises, but it kind of feels like it's like they're the community, right? Like,
right.
And they're kind of doing it. I think in addition, they're doing it out of like for their own communities, sort of. They're like, no, this is like everyone's terrified. Like this is terrible. We should catch this guy. This guy's awful.
Yeah, it's like we're respectable criminals who.
Right.
I mean, it's like a mafia kind of Yakuza sort of like we're like doing respectable criminal stuff. We're not actively trying to kill people all the time. We're not like freaky, like child serial killers. Like this guy, we don't endorse him and he's wrecking up our time.
Yeah.
And so
then it kind of becomes like CSI 1930. Because it goes into a lot of detail about crime solving and like setting up perimeters and like search areas and like there's a lot of really cool intercutting between like there's like a conversation over the phone that like with the police commissioner where he's like explaining all the methods that they're trying to use to catch the killer, and as he's talking it's cutting away to all these different scenes of like people analyzing fingerprints and like looking on maps to like make a map of where all the murders happened and stuff that's like pretty, commonplace crime movie stuff now, but it's really cool to see in this context. It kind of reminded me of Spies a bit, the other Fritz Lang movie where he gets really kind of nitty gritty into like the like the procedural stuff of like what are they actually doing.
Fritz Lang really is like more of a pulp director than I had thought, I guess. Like he loves like the kind of fun like cops and robbers stuff, and he feels like with this and Spies, it feels like a lot of a follow up to Louis Feuillade. In terms of like this movie, there's ineffectual bureaucratic police, but then there is rather effectual, if not very fair, bureaucratic like systems in the organized crime world, and it's drawing all these parallels between the two, where there are even like parts where they're kind of planning out how they're gonna catch this guy, and it's cutting back and forth like very seamlessly with like some match cuts and some just like almost like stuff that you see in like a heist movie today of like someone in one party is starting a conversation and then the other people unrelated are almost like picking up on the same idea, and it's cutting back and forth between these people. Yeah. Really well done.
The editing in this movie is phenomenal.
Yeah, especially for the time. And yeah, like the cops, the organized criminals, they have their own like judicial system that is literally underground.
Well, yeah, it's underground in, I think, an abandoned factory that they say has been abandoned because of the Depression. So also topical. Yeah. I think this movie is definitely the least kind of fantastical thing that I've seen Fritz Lang do. Like, yeah. His really early stuff is like just straight fantasy, pretty much, with like Destiny and the ones that we didn't watch, the like Siegfried, like dragon fighting movies. And then like, Metropolis is like very fantastical, kind of like big sci-fi movie. And even Spies has like some kind of like sci-fi-ish stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it's very pulpy.
Yeah, it's much more of like a Dr. Claw with petting a cat kind of
it's like James Bond Spies stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels very grounded for his movies. Yeah. Also, like, probably the best directed thing I've seen from him. Like,
oh yeah,
I wrote down a bunch of places where it's just like the camera work in this is really, really good. And I feel like feels influential too. Like there's shots in this that I'm like, I've definitely seen this in other stuff, and it might have like come from this movie. There's a great when the cops like do a raid on one of like the criminals' bars. They're like confiscating all their stuff, and there's this great tracking shot just across this long table of like guns, watches, like all this like contraband and stuff laid out, and it's just this
brass
long
knuckles.
this like long knives. This long tracking shot across this whole table of all this stuff they're confiscating.
Oh, there's another kind of big like one shot where the camera is like moving through one scene into the next, like goes through a window, like it
through the window. I was gonna say that one next is so good, and it's just physically moving a camera up a wall through a window, but it's like, I mean. They probably just handed it off to someone, but it's
even got one part that like feels like it transfers the camera in a fluid motion from one shot to another, but it does it like on a blank wall, so it's hard to tell. It does the whole like Birdman thing, you know?
Right, like hiding the edits in camera movement.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, I don't know. The shot doesn't have the most point to it, but like also it's really cool.
Yeah. There's another really great use of camera movement in this movie. There's a bit, I think it's with the police commissioner, where he's on the phone, and every word he says, the camera like creeps a little bit closer to him. So he like says something, and the camera moves up, and then he like there's a pause. He says something else, and the camera moves up a little bit more. And like as he's talking on each of like punctuated with each of the words, like the camera just kind of moving in a little bit. It's great. I want to steal that. But yeah, then the criminals finally talk to the blind man from earlier in the movie that sold. I don't know if we actually mentioned that on the podcast or not, but in the opening, the killer buys a balloon for the girl, and the balloon seller is blind, but he remembers the whistle. And so later he recognizes the whistle, and he's like, "Oh shit, I know who that is." And so because he's sort of he knows, you know, the people on the streets, the criminals find out, they're like, "Oh, we found him, like follow that guy." And someone draws an M for murderer in chalk on their hand, and kind of like slaps him on the back, so that then there is a chalk M of the title like on the back of his coat. And so they're able to follow him, and he sort of picks up that he's getting followed, and so he ducks inside of an office building. And so then they're like, "Should we call the cops? No, we got to get him ourselves." And so then they like break into the office building and are like systematically like breaking into every single room in the building. And like there's a guy who tunnels through the floor to get into one room, and they're like, "Don't set off any alarms. Like there can't be any cops. Like we got to get him ourselves." They do find him, and they do trip the alarm, and they have to like run out.
This is some of his best like bug-eyed like terror stuff too.
Right, yeah. Peter Lorre like stuck in the attic in like the storeroom, just waiting to get caught, and he's like backed into a corner. And yeah, the lighting too helps, where it's almost just like the light across his eyes.
Classic noir guy, Peter Lorre.
Yeah. So that one of the criminals gets caught, the guy who tunneled through the floor, and they're kind of trying to get him to rat out the rest of the people to find out where they brought the guy, Peter Lorre. Which of course they bring him to the basement of an abandoned factory and have like a community trial for him, where they have like
including like a defense attorney and all of that.
They like give him a defense attorney, and that's when he has his big, you know, Oscar clip thing where he describes like his, you know, his madness.
It's a dismissive way to put it, even though it kind of gets the idea across of like what it is, but it's an amazing speech.
Yeah. And then parallel to that, the one criminal that the cops have caught, they convince him that the night watchman that they had kidnapped actually died, and that he's on the hook for murder in addition to, you know, breaking and entering. Which then it's very funny when they're like in the interrogation room, like, "That guy died. We're gonna get you for murder." And then it cuts to the night watchman alive, like eating this banquet of food and drinking out of this like cartoonishly huge goblet of beer, and then cut back to the guy like, murder, I didn't, and so he tells them where the trial is being held, and so right as like the crowd is about to kill Peter Lorre, pretty much like they're about to just like tear him apart, the cops show up and take him away, and like the last scene is like a scene of his trial, but we don't actually see Peter Lorre. All we see is like the parents of the dead children, almost like talking directly to the audience at that point. Like we don't actually know if he, like, what happened to the killer after that. Like we know he had a trial by the state, right? That like not this like underground criminal trial, but like a proper one. But it never reveals like what happens to him. Does he go to jail? Does he go to an asylum? Does he get re-released back into society? We don't know. But it's like,
well, I mean, like part of the reason why the criminals want to kill him is because they're concerned that if he goes through the normal criminal justice system, he will get to plead insanity, and then maybe he'll end up getting out when they think he's cured or something like that, and then he'll just kill people and mess everything up again because he can't resist doing it. And it was a little unclear to me, but I think that like that had already happened with him was the thing, was that he was in an asylum already. And the reason the cops were somewhat onto him was because they were looking at people who had been released. Yeah. So like there's maybe a bit of an implication that it might happen again.
Yeah. The movie definitely ends on this kind of note of like a failure of the system almost, or of like the, it feels like it's trying to make a bigger point about like how we treat criminals and like how we treat mental illness and that sort of thing. I'm not sure exactly what Fritz Lang's thesis point is. I know that he was an outspoken opponent of capital punishment, which I definitely get from this movie, that it's like, because the movie definitely is sort of like, this is like the worst guy in the world. Like he's done the worst thing that a person can do, pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
And so you see like the crowd at the end is like, no, like kill him. Like we're done talking about it, And I'm like, it's hard to argue with that feeling, but at the same time, like he is a human person who does like deserve a fair trial and that sort of thing. And it's like,
and he also deserves empathy in ways, like even though he is like horrible, like he is clearly like schizophrenic, and
he is clearly in pain, and he's
right.
struggling. Like he is definitely, I get the sense that the character recognizes that what he's doing is awful,
right?
But he has no self-control to stop himself. Like he is compelled to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how the movie doesn't really give you like an easy like pat on the back answer to that. It's just like, no, like shit's complicated sometimes. Like it's gotta, and it ends on a very kind of like an uncertain note of like how do we as like people even respond to something like this?
Yeah. Which we're still struggling with today.
Yeah. So this movie still feels very relevant and very like the themes it's kind of grappling with still feel very relevant, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I watched some of the William Friedkin interview with Fritz Lang, which is on YouTube. And in that, Fritz Lang talks a little bit about, he used to shadow the police. He's like followed them around in Germany in the 1920s. And he met a man who was accused of murder. And he was with the police when they found severed hands under his bed, which is crazy.
Wow.
He also heard about a guy. He didn't actually meet this guy, but he heard about a guy who would murder people and make sausages out of them, which is, I guess, a real thing that happened. But he also said in that interview that every criminal that he met were generally like very friendly to him. Like
Mm-hmm.
Fritz Lang was like, yeah, like they were all pretty. They all seemed like decent folk, and I think that kind of comes across in this movie. This movie has a lot of like sympathy for the safecrackers and the like,
It has affection for the kind of gentleman thief type people.
Yes, for sure. And oh yeah, I watched this movie on HBO Max, and it minimized it before the movie ended, which sucks. And I want to call them out on it because like
They
cut
won't
that
listen.
out, cut that shit out. I know, I just want to complain. Yeah, this movie is real good,
Yes.
and feels like it might have sort of set a real precedent for like serial killer movies too. I think it's the first time we've seen movies about murder before, but this is like the first. I mean, the term serial killer didn't exist when this movie came out. I think it was inspired by a real guy in Germany in the 20s.
Yes.
I forget his name.
Or at least partially.
The
it
vampire
was.
of Dusseldorf or something. He
Uh-huh.
had some crazy nickname like that. There are a lot of like creature-based serial killers in Germany in the 20s. There's like another guy that's like the werewolf of something else. They had a lot of like supernatural creature names attached to their murders. But so this movie feels both, like I said before, it feels relevant now, but it feels pretty topical for when it came out also.
Yeah. Also just a great movie.
Yeah.
Good stuff.